আমি শগুফতা নসরিন কুইন সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি RTVর জন্য ভয়েস অফ আমেরিকার এই বিশেষ পরিবেশনায়। আমাদের আজকের আলোচনার বিষয় যুক্তরাষ্ট্রের নির্বাচন 2016 এবং সংবাদ মাধ্যম। আমার সঙ্গে আছেন আনিস আহমেদ, আমার সঙ্গে আরও আছেন আমাদের আজকের বিশেষ অতিথি ভয়েস অফ আমেরিকার সংবাদ কক্ষের সিনিয়র অ্যানালিস্ট জিম মেলন। আমরা আজকের পরিবেশনায় আমরা ইংরেজিতে কথা বলবো। Jim Malone, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much.
We will first go to Anis Ahmed for the first question.
Actually, the main issue which has come up this time in the presidential debate and presidential election as well are not really the issues on which one should have been ideally focusing. It's rather more of a personal type, like Trump's video leakage and then Trump's allegation about Hillary's leakage of emails by WikiLeaks. So these issues, do you think, Jim, that they are really digressing us from the main issues which should have been in focus?
Well, I think what we're seeing is this election has quickly become a referendum on the two candidates, and that issues like the economy, foreign policy, the direction of the country have slipped into sort of secondary status. By all means, this should be a change election. After 2 terms of President Barack Obama, historically Americans like change. And therefore, actually, a Republican probably would have been favored this year. But we see who the Republicans have nominated, a very controversial figure, who is out there, has a very loyal band of supporters behind him. But in recent weeks, the election has really begun to turn as a referendum on Donald Trump. And that is probably something that the Clinton campaign is happy with, because the main argument from the Clinton campaign has been temperament. Is Donald Trump, does he have the right temperament, judgment to be president? That's not to say there aren't issues with Hillary Clinton. The recent WikiLeaks documents shows some troubling concerns for voters about Clinton, on one hand saying there's a public face that a politician should have, and then perhaps consider other options in private. So there's definitely fuel there to attack Clinton, but with the release of the videotape on Trump, the vulgar remarks about women, I think this has completely changed the presidential race.
So when you say that it's a kind of personal issues which have now come up very importantly, do you think that this is because the Republicans particularly are detaching themselves from Donald Trump, because it's no longer the issue of the Republicans as a whole, but it's more of Trump?
Yes, I mean, the controversial tape has really roiled the waters, has really, gotten things very much disturbed for the Republican Party. There's some really significant splits in the party. And we know historically, when a political party is split, that's usually not a good thing going into a presidential election. And here we are about 3 weeks out. And the situation now is really concerning for the Republicans. The only way they can win is to be united. And right now, there's a major feud between Trump and the Republican leaders, and we saw that in the primaries months ago.
Right.
Jim, Republican nominee Donald Trump in the second presidential debate said that to the Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton that if he is elected, then he will ask his attorney general to have a special prosecutor and investigate Hillary Clinton's email. How unusual is this for a candidate to say this about another candidate?
It's extremely unusual, and I actually think that was one of the key moments in the debate. Voters may have additional material now to decide a candidate's judgment based on basically what was a legal threat like that. Although technically that is something a president might be able to do legally, it would certainly be politically frowned upon. And not only that, in the wake of that comment in the debate, a number of prominent Republicans, some who used to be involved with the Justice Department, denounced Trump for that and for suggesting that. I think a lot of Americans would see that as a political attempt to use the justice system to go after an opponent. That's something Americans are used to seeing perhaps in other countries around the world where the democratic, structure is not as sound as we think it is in the U.S.
How do you see Paul Ryan's and again the Vice President candidate Pence's, two contradicting or contradictory approach towards Trump?
This situation with Donald Trump is really interesting because it has put the Republican Party in kind of a bind, a dilemma. On one hand, in order to keep control of Congress, Republicans need a strong turnout in the election. And the turnout would come primarily from Trump supporters who would also vote for Republican members of Congress. But his recent remarks captured in the video have so disturbed a number of Republican leaders that they want to distance themselves from Trump. Yet the risk there is they could actually hurt themselves with the Trump supporters, some of whom now call these Republican leaders traitors. They say they're betraying the cause. So really, in one sense, they are darned if they do and darned if they don't in terms of trying to distance themselves from Trump supporters. But this is what happened, I think, when the Republican Party decided to nominate Donald Trump, which came from the grassroots, and the party leadership decided to back him, perhaps half-heartedly.
The damaging video that you were talking about, Donald Trump making lewd comments about women, how is that affecting women voters?
I think we're seeing an effect in the polls. In some of the key aspects of polling you look for is how does a candidate, how are they depicted with certain voting groups? Women are a majority of our population. They're a majority of the voters. And Trump has his base of support. Perhaps it's around 40% of the voting public. But in order to get in a place where he could actually win the election, he needs to broaden his base of support. And one of the key groups he needs to appeal to would be women voters, Republican women voters to start with. And the recent debate, the release of the videotape, all point to troubling signs for Trump's ability to win over women voters.
What about independent voters?
The same applies to independent voters. Before the debates began, Trump had pulled close in the polls, and he was doing well with independent voters, but we've seen now a slackening, a weakening among independent voters for Trump. So his base is shrinking a bit. You do not want this just weeks away from Election Day. You need to be gaining momentum.
Right. Now, media. You have been covering presidential election and other election for many, many years. How is the media handling this?
Well, yeah, the media, of course, in this age, is not just the traditional broadcast media, print media we know about. It's social media, which generates a whole new aspect of the ability for candidates to attack one another and for the voters to respond immediately and for bits of information to be packaged to them, especially younger voters, to get them involved in the process. But we've never had a phenomenon like Donald Trump, who was a creation in some aspects of celebrity media culture. And there's some irony here in that the videotape came from a Hollywood celebrity program he was on 11 years ago that he's now forced to defend or at least try to apologize for. So yeah, the media world has changed enormously, but it has also enabled, I think, someone like Trump, a television star, to come from the world of celebrity and entertainment into the world of politics. But as we've seen, there's also great risk with that in terms of things from your past coming back to haunt you.
Mr. Jim Malone, thank you so much for being with us in our program. Thank you, Anisa Ahmed. দর্শকবৃন্দ, আপনাদের ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি। আপনারা দেখছিলেন RTVর জন্য ভয়েস অফ আমেরিকার বিশেষ পরিবেশনা 2016 সালের প্রেসিডেন্ট নির্বাচন। ধন্যবাদ।